When you can control somebody's emotions, you can control their actions.
This thing is as big as my hat.
It doesn't do anything emotionally for the audience at all.
Sales isn't just about being louder, smoother, or more aggressive. It's about emotions because decisions are emotional first and justified second. In this episode, I'm joined by McCall Jones, co-founder of Charisma Hacking, and we break down how emotional control inside a sales presentation directly drives buying decisions, not manipulation, mastery. We talk about why presence matters more than polish, how emotional leakage kills trust, and why the most effective sellers aren't charismatic by accident. They're intentional. And the best part, charisma is something that you're born with, but you may have not activated it yet. Everyone has a unique version of it. And when you learn how to lock yours in, results change fast. If you lead sales conversations, pitch ideas, run meetings, or influence decisions for a living, this episode will shift how you show up and how people respond. Let's get into it. Independence isn't just about where you go. It's about how well you live when you get there. That's why I am genuinely excited about Indie Stove, because it completely changes what outdoor and off-grid cooking looks like. Indie Stove is an ultra-portable, collapsible stove that fits basically anywhere, but performs like a real kitchen tool. It heats up in minutes, holds up in wind, rain, and rugged terrain, and works with multiple fuel sources, propane, butane, or wood pellets. So you're never limited by where you are and what's available. But here's where it gets fun. This isn't just about boiling water. With Indie Stove's modular accessories, you can actually cook. The workspace stack gives you sturdy side sleeves, so your cookware, ingredients, and tools are right there when you need them most. No balancing acts, no chaos. The skewer stack lets you grill kebabs, vegetables, or skewered meals evenly with non-sag skewers designed for real heat control. And yes, people are baking chocolate chip cookies off the grid. Fresh cookies in the middle of nowhere. That is not survival, that's luxury. Indie Stove is built for people who want freedom without giving up quality. Real meals, real control, real independence. Whether you're camping, overlanding, prepping for emergencies, or just choosing a life that isn't tied to outlets and crowded kitchens. And because you're a Revenue Rascals listener, you get something extra. Use code Revenue Rascals at checkout and you'll receive a free workspace stack with your purchase of a stove, valued at $120. That's Revenue Rascals at indiestove.com. Because independence should taste incredible. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Revenue Rascals. And today I have my friend and total business baddie, McCall Jones from Charisma Hacking. Hey, McCall.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so pumped for you to be here. So McCall and I have known of each other for, probably 7 or 8 years, but recently became friends when we both realized we were in Utah together. And what I absolutely love about what McCall does, so everyone knows clearly what I do because I talk about it all the time on the show, right? But why I wanted McCall to come on is because I absolutely love how she believes and she teaches that no matter your personality, you have a certain charisma that can attract and convert your ideal clients. And the reason why this is a big deal is I can't tell you how often I hear, like, I'm not an extrovert. I'm not this. I hate sales. It makes me feel so uncomfortable. And I just want to scream from the mountaintops, like, you can do this. It doesn't matter what your personality is. And McCall, you're going to die when I tell you this. So I was on this round table this morning. Okay.
I'm so excited.
And there was this guy on it that was a consultant that, I mean, he has a huge corporate career, super successful, just starting his consulting company. And he literally told everyone that he hates sales. He'll do anything he possibly can to not have to sell. Then goes on a tangent how he's vibe coding all of these ways to avoid having to sell. So he's literally spending like 20 hours a week trying to vibe code his way out of having to take sales calls. So, if I do this or I do this, maybe it'll help me, yada, yada, yada. And I want to pull my hair out. I'm like, you should not become a business owner, founder, or consultant if you can't get yourself to sell. And two, like, I'm sure he's great at it, but he won't let himself do it. So with that being said, McCall, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited
Yes.
for our conversation today. I think two ladies who are obsessed with sales, this is going to be a great convo.
I agree. So talk to us a little bit about charisma hacking and the impact that you've been able to make, because it's pretty huge. And I love working with you. I've brought McCall in to a client before to help. And, I just love partnering with you. And what you do is really important.
Thank you. So yeah, with charisma hacking, we're basically charisma for sales. And we believe at charisma hacking that charisma just looks different for different people. That's the whole foundation premise of charisma hacking. A lot of times what happens is just like general likability, charisma, the word that comes to mind when you think like, oh my gosh, that person is charismatic, or people really like that person. Or some people will even say like extroverted, good with people, whatever. Everybody has a really clear picture of what they think that looks like in their mind. And a lot of times it comes from either coaches or mentors that they've worked with that they're like, oh my gosh, that person is charismatic. So that's what charisma looks like. If I look more like that, people will like me more, right? Or when it comes to sales, they're very specific, like sales mentors or people who have sold to them that they think, oh, that person was good at sales. If I act more like that person, I will then sell more. So what we do at Charisma Hacking is we have a system called Charisma Styles. And what Charisma Styles, it's data backed, but it basically shows you that charisma it just looks different for different people. So whether you're loud and fun or theatrical or bubbly or more serious, there are ways to get the exact same result and get to the same level, regardless of what your personality is, as long as you're leaning into the right tactics for you. It's when you try to use tactics that don't come naturally to you, like in everyday life, that's when it starts to come off like salesy or weird or obnoxious or just awkward. So we help people really dial in the tactics that will work specifically for them. And then we believe charisma is all about emotions. So we say like, okay, which tactics do you need to use in order to make people feel the specific emotions that you want at the specific times? And then we're able to get lots of crazy results because when you can control somebody's emotions, you can control their actions. So it's so fun.
Oh my gosh, I love that line. If you can control someone's emotions, you can control their actions. Now, McCall, I cannot remember, but I'm willing to bet you can remember. Which charisma style was I?
Oh yeah, girl. You are a lead mirror roar.
That's
Lead
right.
mirror roar.
Oh my gosh, I love this so much. Can you tell the audience what that means and also who my famous character is that I can model my behavior off of?
Yeah. So within charisma styles, there are 3 separate charisma styles, and you are one of each of these. So first we have our attention style, and this is basically the part of your charisma or personality that you use to get people's attention. Then we have your trust style, which is obviously the charisma style you use to get people to trust you, but we think of attention as like the fun part of your charisma. Your trust style is like the empathetic part of your charisma. And then we have your authority style, which is the style you use to talk about your experience and your authority, but it's more of like the in charge part of your charisma. And then all 3 of them make up who you are, kind of like a recipe. So you're 1 attention style, 1 trust style, and 1 authority style. So you get people's attention in a really specific way, you get people to trust you in a really specific way, you get people to do what you say in a really specific way. So within our attention styles, there's 6 different attention styles. So with each one of them, they basically have like a main defining characteristic that they use when they're trying to get people to pay attention to them. So the first one we have is amaze. So amaze is all brightness. So if you're trying to get people's attention and the first like tactic you reach for is like pure brightness, eyebrows up, eyes wide, mouth wide, right? Very like Lin-Manuel Miranda or Elle Woods, right? It's like, oh my goodness, this is so fun, right? If it's pure brightness and bubbly this way, then you're an amaze. The next one is called excite. Now, excite, the main tactic they grab towards, or the main characteristic that they use to get people to pay attention, is explosiveness. All of a sudden, when they start talking like this and it feels a little bit more explosive, they are excite. So Russell Brunson, who's a friend of mine, he's an excite. So when he gets excited, he talks like this. Kelly Clarkson is another excite that I love. When she gets really excited, all of a sudden, she starts to be really explosive. So that's an excite. The third one is called charm. Now, charms reach for playfulness when they're trying to get people to pay attention to them. Playfulness is basically like Ryan Reynolds, right? Anytime he needs somebody to pay attention, he grabs like a witty comment. It's kind of like this back and forth thing. Anna Kendrick is also a charm, which we love Anna Kendrick. So we have amaze, which is brightness, excite, which is explosiveness, charm, which is playfulness. Our next one's called perform. Perform is all about the theatricalness. I am a perform. So when I'm trying to get people to pay attention to me, the first tactic that I grab to use is like I do a weird voice, or I have a weird facial expression, or I like do some weird body movement thing on stage or something. So that's perform. The next one is called impress. And what an impress does is they lean into their words. When they need people to pay attention to them, they're all about the emphasis. This is like Brene Brown, right? So she can be talking normal, everything can be fine. And then when she wants people to pay attention to something, she slows it down. She really leans into her words with kind of that weight. And then finally, we have roar, which is like you, amazing friend. So roar uses power. It's power and volume. So you can be like this, and then all of a sudden, when you want people to pay attention, it's all about the power and the volume, and this is what's happening. So we have brightness, amaze, explosiveness, which is excite. We have charm, which is that playfulness. We have perform, which is the theatricalness. We have impress, which is the weight. And then we have roar, which is the power. So you are one of those attention styles. So you can kind of start to imagine if we tried to use the one that wasn't naturally us, it would look really weird, right? So if an Elle Woods tried to all of a sudden be a Ryan Reynolds, it would look so strange, right? It would look like Elle Woods was going through things, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we think about it, your signature move of your high kick on stage, if I tried to do that, not only would I pull a hammy, but people would be like, what is wrong with Michelle?
Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Exactly. Right? And when you can imagine everybody doing the wrong one and how ridiculous it would look, the interesting thing is, and we'll get into the other two in just a second, but the interesting thing is when people think like, oh, I'm bad at sales, if all you imagined was you doing the wrong tactic and how weird it would look, it's like, no wonder you're not closing anyone. And obviously there's two other charisma styles, but like you're trying to do a high kick when that would look really weird for you, right? And if you leaned into the right one, people would feel like it was very natural, right? It's the same thing with like the sales tactics as we get into like the authority styles and the trust styles. It's like if you use the right one, everything works out better. And if you use the wrong one, things just look awkward, right? Things just look awkward. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. I love this. So like, I literally have like a visual right now of my husband who's an introvert, like trying to use my same charisma style in any environment. I'm just like kind of laughing to myself.
It would be crazy. It would be crazy. And I think that when you have somebody that's in front of you that's so good at theirs, like you're so good at using your charisma styles and you're so in them all the time that a lot of times people will look at that and be like, oh, no, that's the good one. Like, because Michelle is so good at using hers, I should try to use hers too, right? When it's just a little bit counterintuitive to say like, oh, Michelle's amazing at exactly what she does. How can I use like the sales tactics she's doing without trying to take her charisma tactics, right? So saying like, oh, how could I use her scripting without trying to be like how she is, like and how she delivers her stuff? So it's like a little bit of a brain warp when you're trying to get into it, but it ends up working really fast and really naturally once you understand like, oh, okay, just detach this part from it, and then you're able to lean into the stuff that works.
Yes. And, to talk about, I loved the project that we worked on this past year. So I'm going to explain to everyone the practical application of what we're talking about. So I wrote the sales syntax, the script, the objection handling vault, like everything that you think of like the step-by-step of how you sell something. Then McCall came in and helped all of the reps learn their charisma style, then provided feedback on the script of like, if you're this person, this is what it looks like. And it was amazing. And I feel like it especially worked well because it was such a diverse group of sellers where everyone had such different personalities. So it was not a tech company, everybody. Hate to burst the bubble, okay? So a non-tech company usually has different personalities of sellers. So I feel like that was so powerful. And I also feel like leaving that client with that sales enablement tool is so incredibly powerful for the future of anyone that they hire. So, McCall, did I skip over anything where you need to explain charisma hacking styles, or can I move on?
You can totally move on. There are the other charisma styles, but once you kind of get it, you get it, right? There's 3 different ways to get people to trust you. There's 3 different ways to get people to do what you say. But once you understand the premise of charisma styles, it just kind of makes sense, right? It makes sense of saying oh, okay, the same way that I wouldn't use somebody else's tactics to get people to pay attention to me, right? It's the exact same thing with trust or trying to show empathy. It's the exact same thing with authority. I think we can totally move on, but just know there are ways.
There are
Who's
ways.
the right ones.
I'm sorry. One more time. I cannot remember to save my life. What's mine again? You said it again.
So you are a lead, you are a mirror, and you are a roar. So roar is how you get people to pay attention to you. Lead is your authority style, which means that you say, trust me, right? You're an assertive motivator, as opposed to lift, which is a encouraging cheerleader, which is what I am, or a light, which is a geeky party promoter, which is what Russell Brunson is or Kelly Clarkson is. And then as your trust style is just how you validate people. So the way that you validate people, there's 3 different ways. There's steady, fix, or mirror. Steadies are soft and empathetic. Fixes are very matter of fact and straightforward. And then mirrors are very expressive. And how they validate people is through expression and saying okay, I understand what you're going through based on how you react to things. So you're a lead, mirror, roar.
Okay. So then let's talk about beyond just a sales script, how you would come in and support. How else are you using charisma hacking to help people make more sales?
Great question. So what we primarily do, so our kind of lower level programs, they help people just get on video, right? A lot of times we are licensing our products in other people's high ticket offers so that when people need to get on video, be in front of people, get on stages, we overcome an objection for them so that people are more willing to implement their own frameworks. It's kind of how you brought us in, right? Where you're I need them to do this specific sales script, but they're not very good at it. How would I fix that? Oh, I can use charisma styles to kind of partner with my own frameworks to make people more effective at what I do. So we've partnered with real estate coaches, we've partnered with marketing coaches, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what we do at the lowest level, is we enhance other people's products by just making people good at kind of fill in the blank, right? Good at being in front of people, good at sales, more confident, things like that. What we're doing with all of our higher level people is we work primarily on sales presentations. So we do webinars, challenges, immersion events, just any kind of conversion presentation. And we work with clients on optimizing those. So sometimes we call it a turnaround specialist. Sometimes we're turnaround specialists where people will bring us their webinars or their challenges and we'll go through and we'll say okay, here are the emotions you need people to make, or you need to make people feel. You haven't made them feel those emotions by these deadlines. Let's adjust that. Sometimes it's a delivery thing. Sometimes it's they're not telling the right stories to evoke the right emotions. So we really we use just how you say it kind of at our lower level stuff, and how you say it and what you say in order to make people feel emotions primarily is how we do it at the higher level.
Okay, so let's talk about emotion triggers right now, because I believe strongly that they have evolved over the last couple of years. You and I have been in this business for longer than 99% of people that have been in this business. We survived. We're the real people. Yes. Right? We did it. Okay. And so I think about what I have done even before I knew I was doing it in terms of emotional triggers, and also attracting the right person that I can get the best results for. If I think, if I go back to the first 2 years of my business where I was primarily selling group coaching programs, and I would say at any given time I had 50 people in a program. Okay. There was always a couple people where I was are we the best match? Because I'm not sure I can get you to do what I'm asking you to do. And if I think back on that, absolutely some emotional trigger was either off or, something else, right? So I believe the emotional triggers in combination with your charisma style pull in the right person. So it's not even just making you sales, it's making sure you get the right people that want to work with you. So that's what the topic I'd like to explore on. So first, McCall, let's talk about emotional triggers and how they've evolved. And then we can jump in to make sure that we're using them in the right way to get the right people in our world.
Yeah, for sure. The first thing that I would say, I love what you just said. What Charisma Styles does is it's basically like a revealer. It helps you show accurately what is happening. Here's what I mean. A lot of times things get in the way of showing somebody the accuracy of your deliverable or your authority or different things like that, right? Either like bravado or insecurity can get in the way. And it can show people just things that aren't real, right? And the same thing is like when you talk about your programs and things, if there's any amount of desperation on either end, you're always going to get in trouble, right? If you, the person who is selling the product, are desperate for the sale at all, you're going to get in trouble. Because once again, like you said, you will bring in people who may not be exactly right for the program or product because you unknowingly are overpromising, right? You're like, no, but I could do it. I could do it. Like maybe if I just like throw my body at it a little bit more, like I need this sale, right? So if there's any desperation on your part, you'll bring in the wrong people. And if there's any desperation on their part, right? If you're attracting a little bit more desperate people, it's just a recipe for disaster. Like one of our core company values is like, we don't sell to desperate people. It doesn't mean we don't sell to people in need. We absolutely want to empower our clients with everything that they need in order to succeed. But if they are desperate, we have plenty of free resources for them to like catch up to the point where they're no longer desperate. Because if somebody buys in a desperate place, I think it can actually be really detrimental to both you and them. Like you said, they come in, they don't get a result, and then everybody's frustrated. Or they come in and they're a way needier client than you have the ability to fulfill on, right? So that's one of the things. It's like, it's making sure with charisma and making sure you're hitting those right emotional triggers that you aren't showing desperation and that you're making sure you're not attracting those desperate buyers either. That's probably the first thing. That's probably the first one. There's a ton of them, but especially just what you just said of making sure the right people get in, that would be the first one that I would talk about.
I love what you said about enrolling desperate people. It's bad for everybody. And, I feel super blessed that I only sold to people who wanted to be sold to. So I've actually never had a chargeback. I've never had anybody say, I want out or anything. We've always pushed through and done it. However, I can think of some big brands on the internet that just didn't care. It was sales at all costs. And, now we're seeing regulatory people get involved here. People are being sued. There's class action lawsuits. So everybody listening, like this is really important. This can be a lighthearted conversation, but you really need to take this seriously.
Yeah, it can be pretty spooky. I also think in defense of people who are just starting business, being paid for your expertise, especially at the beginning, can feel like a miracle. It can feel like, what do you mean somebody wants to pay me for something that I made up? Like, I know it can feel like a miracle. And a lot of times, like, even if entrepreneurship also has its ups and downs, right? Like, we feel like we've been at I wouldn't say the top, but like a upper level top place. And we've also been at a very lower level bottom place just because that's how entrepreneurship works. And when you're in one of those lower bottom places that everybody kind of goes through, sometimes it feels like, what do you mean I can't sell to everybody who would pay me money? Like I need the money. And it's in those moments that you have to actually make the decision to say like, oh, it's not at the top. It's not when you're making a gajillion dollars that you're like, oh yeah, of course. Like, oh dang it, I can't sell to desperate people. It's like, it's when you're at the bottom and you need it. And you maybe are a little bit desperate in just reality. It's those moments that you have to say like, okay, no, this will actually benefit my business more if I don't sell to this individual because they need more than I can give them, right? They need more than I can give them. And just having firm boundaries with that. Yeah, super important.
Super important. Okay, let's go through some of the top emotional triggers that I want to talk about. And I would love to hear not just how charisma hacking applies to it, but I love sales presentations. Like, love them. I mean, that is how I made all of my money in the first 2 years was challenges, webinars, master classes. And I mean, I seriously don't think there's a bigger high than doing a presentation, hitting the end button, and then just seeing people buy and like your email being flooded. Like that is like the best feeling in the world. So let's talk about these emotional triggers as they relate to sales presentations. You game?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
right.
Of course. This is my very favorite
Awesome.
subject in the world. Yes.
Yay. All right. So the first one I want to talk about is identity. So people buy to become who they want to be, not like, I want that course or I want that coach or that consultant. But I want to be the kind of person that succeeds at that level. So for me, some trigger phrases that I've heard a lot of, which you could also feel free to hate, is imagine yourself, ... or you're the person who ... So let's talk about identity.
Yeah, I love that. The very first, so we have a framework called emotional non-negotiables. This is like the sales presentation Bible. So we believe in our company, we have a phrase, we have all of these mantras that we like live by, and one of them is nothing is precious. What we mean by nothing is precious is like any idea that we're extracting or framework or whatever, we believe nothing is precious, right? It's always available to be a little bit more malleable. We also believe that like there's a lot of different ways to give a sales presentation, right? There's a ton of different frameworks on the market, I guess, like just in the world of, and they all can be right? There's a lot of different stories that people suggest that you tell. We believe that everything, that nothing's precious, except we have one framework that is precious, which is crazy. It's the emotional non-negotiables. So there are 16 emotions that people have to feel in a sales presentation by specific times in that presentation, or they won't buy, right? And we know like, and there's a lot of different ways to make them feel those things. It's exactly what you said. Like identity is absolutely one of them. It's actually the first one that we want people to feel. The emotion that we frame it as is, I know I'm in the right place, right? And there's a lot of different ways to make people feel that. You just mentioned two of them, right? Imagine yourself this, or what was the other phrase that you used? I loved it so much.
It was, you're the person who ...
Totally, right? The other, like we have a lot of different ways that we can get there. I love that so much. The other thing that we do is just even like avatar call out of like, you're in the right place if, you're here because you want this, right? And you make sure you frame out their desire, right? You're in the right place if you see yourself as this, or if you're trying to escape this, or you're sick of this, right? Whatever it is, it's like, there's a lot of different ways to get there, but I know I'm in the right place. If people feel that first, they're more likely to stay to the next part of the sales presentation, right? Which leads us to the next emotion and the next one. But I love that. Yeah. The identity piece is so key. And when you get to the pitch, it's the same thing. It's seeing people who are like them, who have succeeded, that have the life that they want, right? Or that are going through the same things that they have gone through, where they say like, oh, I can overcome my own false beliefs and I can become the identity that I want to be. I love that. I love that. So cool.
I love it too. And I think it's a really important one. I was, one of the sales presentations is clearly pitching live on a stage during one of your events. And I was recently at an event, and McCall, I'm like so bad at being an attendee at an event because I just sit there and like think about the sales presentation the whole time and like how I would do it differently. So it's like a real bad kind of like disease level at this point. But anyway.
We need to sit next to each other so you can just like pass me notes and me be like, yep.
Oh my God, like I just want to help you, right? Or like send you to McCall. So just saying. But one thing, the last one that I was at is like that identity thing, like did not connect. So I saw her just lose people for literally the rest. And I think why is because it was selling a very like ambiguous, non-performative, like mastermind. So it was a lot of like features, benefits, not outcome based. So it felt like grabbing for straws. But I think this is like a really, really important piece of the puzzle that if, like you said, it's your number one thing, it's like they're going to fall off. They're going to end meeting within like 30 seconds virtually. So pay attention to the order as we're talking through this, everybody listening. Okay. Number 2, belonging, which I also love. So we're wired to follow the tribe that we want to belong to, which is like status, proximity, community. And I believe that sales unlocks when prospects feel like I'm joining people like me who are going where I want to go. And that's not just for group coaching programs for everybody listening. It is like what CRM you select. Like, are you a HubSpot or are you Salesforce? Like, it's product too. Like, it is not just for coaching. So talk to me about how and like when belonging is important inside a sales presentation.
Yeah, 100%. I think the two things that we have to make sure that we show in a sales presentation, I mean, really to make people feel both of those things, but it's so beneficial all the time, is the before and the after. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is they use testimonials the wrong way and too soon in a sales presentation. And I know that feels crazy because people are always trying to establish their authority when like, that's not the first thing that people are wondering. And I know that feels counterintuitive and against what everybody says of like, first, tell them why they should listen to you. And it's like, yes. And nobody is sitting there thinking first, like, I wonder what this person's credentials are. Actually, they're never thinking that first. They do think that later, but they're thinking about themselves first. They're actually not thinking anything about you first, right? So a lot of times, coming back to that belonging, but it's making sure that you use testimonials the right way and showing the before and the after. Because part of what makes people feel like they belong is that people just like them have gone and are going to exactly where they want to go, right? So when you stack your testimonials at the beginning of your sales presentation and you just show the afters, it doesn't do anything emotionally for the audience at all. Like if all of a sudden you open up your sales presentation, I was at this conference and this guy, he is very successful. He's very successful. And I actually say it all the time, but he got on stage and like his intro was like really fast, just so you know that I'm not full of it. Let me show you a couple people that I've helped. And it was like, billion views, $100 million, something. And he just like went through the like highlight reel of the after testimonial things. And I sat there and I was like, okay, yes, it was impressive for sure, but it didn't make me emotionally connect with him at all. Right. And it didn't with the audience either. Like I'm sure some of the people were impressed, but if they sit there, if there's no emotional connection, you have wasted your amazing testimonials that are very impressive. You just wasted them because it doesn't make people feel like they belong at all, right? Instead, it just makes people go, okay, right? It's not having the impact that you think it is. So the way that we make people feel belonging and a lot of other emotions too, is if you can frame out the before of those testimonials and things that this person had tried before and failed, all of a sudden, if you can get the audience or the potential buyer to see themselves in the before of the testimonial, you then can say like, and this person got to this end result. And if you're just like them, you can do this too, right? It's like you are part of a group of people who is choosing to get out of this before and move to the after, right? It's like it becomes this movement and momentum that people want to be a part of instead of just like, do you want to be somebody who has done $100 million online? They're like, yeah, but that's not like a belonging or identity thing. That's just like of course I want to make a lot of money. Of course I want to do those things. Yeah, I love that one.
I really think this is an important part that we need to pull out is when you lead with testimonials or allocates, like you're talking about in the beginning, people are like, wow, that person's impressive, but they have no connection to know if they can do it themselves. And that is the major disconnect. So that's why you lose people. Like even myself, I consider myself pretty successful in terms of like my social media reach. But not anything like you just said. And so I would be like, oh, wow, you're that guy again who like struck gold once and nobody else can do it and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, it's really important with what you're saying of the before and after is like, can regular people or people like me do the same thing? So critical. Okay, I have to tell you something really funny before we move on. So I have a vice in life and it's called Diet Coke. Okay. And
terrible vice.
It's a really bad vice. I think it's sucking the calcium out of my bones is what I read. And, but every once in a while, I just need one. And I was feeling like a little sluggish today. So I called my husband because I knew he was coming home. And I was like, will you please pick me up a Diet Coke on your way home? So he did, which is so sweet. But do you want to see the size he chose?
100%. Yes.
This thing is as big as my hat. So I'm going to need to be a little careful of how much I
chose
drink.
Right. I love it.
God, I love him. Okay, anyway, I couldn't leave that to be. That had to be part of the
Incredible.
podcast. All right, Rascals, let me ask you this. How much money have you wasted replacing shoes, sneakers, or even bags that could have lasted way longer if only you'd been taken better care of them? I know for me, running from meetings to kids' activities, life gets messy fast. And that's why I always have Jason Mark Quick Wipes on hand. Jason Mark is trusted care to help you get the most out of what you wear. They're not just about cleaning. They're about protecting what you love while protecting the planet. Their wipes are now 100% plant-based and plastic-free, made from renewable lyocell fibers. They're individually wrapped so you can toss them in your bag, your car, or like me, your kids' backpacks. And it's not just convenience. Jason Mark is part of the worldwide B Corp movement, meeting the highest standards for social and environmental impact. They're EPA Safer Choice certified, so you know the formulas are safe for your family. And their products are USDA, bio-based, and certified biodegradable. That means no harmful junk like PFAS or VOCs. Just high-performance care that keeps your stuff looking fresh while doing right by the planet. Personally, as a busy mom and entrepreneur, Quick Wipes are my favorite. They've saved my sneakers from coffee spills, playground dust, you name it. One wipe and I'm ready to walk into my next meeting looking sharp. So here's the deal. Go to jasonmark.com and use promo code RevenueRascals at checkout for 25% off your order. One time per customer. Again, that's jasonmark.com, code RevenueRascals. And remember, this podcast is free thanks to sponsors like Jason Mark. I'm ungating sales strategies people pay me six figures for. So go support them, grab your Quick Wipes or your favorite product, and keep your kicks looking fresh. So the next one we're moving on to is urgency for change. And this really does kind of like easily back up to what you just said on the before and afters, but it's staying the same must feel more painful than investing. So that's the key part of it. So what does that mean? It means that you have to use like clarity mirrors, for example. So here's what continues if nothing changes, and here's what becomes possible when you act. So urgency, I don't like to look at as pressure, but more so permission. So curious on what your feedback is on that.
I love that. I think a lot of times when people think urgency, I love how you said it's not pressure. A lot of times I would love to just talk to like mistakes that people are making, but a lot of times the mistakes that we see that people are making when it comes to urgency is they're using very surface level tactics, things like timers, right? Which I'm not saying don't use timers. I'm saying they're totally effective, but it's not, remember, I'm like an emotional genie, right? So it's like, yes, use the timers. Those are awesome. But I love what you said, urgency for change. The main ways that we want people to feel urgency is emotionally, right? And the way that you do that is you talk about the consequences, right? They have to see what happens if they don't move. If they are unaware of the consequences of staying exactly where they're at, then they're not going to move. If they're able to see the consequences of not acting, they're much more likely to act. I was on a call with these amazing women, and we were all kind of masterminding, and they were asking me questions about these sales presentations. And this awesome woman was explaining that she just did a webinar and nobody bought. She was like, I just can't figure it out. Like, nobody bought on this webinar. And she was talking to parents. She had a program that was helping like teens with social media boundaries, basically, but it was for parents. And she was talking, she was just like, nobody bought. I didn't know what happened. And she's like, can I send you the webinar? And I said, yeah, but can I ask you a couple questions? And she said, yes. And I said, okay, so talk to me about teens with social media, right? What happens if they don't use social media safely? And I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was bad, right? She went through like a bunch of different things of something with their brain. And I don't have teenagers, so I probably would have been paying more closely attention, but something with their brain and something with their souls and like all these different things. And they were bad consequences. And I was like, okay, awesome. What did they say when you told them that? And she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, when you told them what happens when teens don't fix it, like what'd they say in the chat? Like, how did they respond to that? She was like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, I'm confused. I was like, how did you frame out the program for them? And she's like, that this would be such an awesome thing if they moved forward, like their teens would get. And she started listing off all these benefits of like, their teens would want to spend more time with the family, and their teens would have better, emotional regulation and their nervous system and all these different things. And I was like, okay, but you didn't tell them what happens if they didn't? And she was like, well, no. I said, why not? And she's like, well, I didn't want to scare them. She's like, I didn't want to like be this fear-mongering person who is coming in and talking about the doomsday things that happen. And I said, okay, well, would you rather that they experienced the consequences? She was like, no, oh my gosh, no. And I said, well, you're the expert, so you can tell the future for them, right? Right now, wherever they're at, they can't see the future because they're not the expert. They can only see the present, right? And what's happening in the present hasn't been severe enough for them to exhaust every resource. Or maybe it has been because they did come to your webinar. They decided like, maybe we should act. But they're not to the point where they're desperate enough to try anything because they didn't buy, right? And it's like, okay, so you have them in this sweet spot where they are problem aware. And because they're problem aware, if you don't show them the consequences of not acting, then you kind of have to take responsibility for if they suffer those consequences, right? And she was like, oh my gosh. So just by changing that one thing, it's like if you actually share the consequences of not acting and not moving, no, it's not fear-mongering. It is telling the future, because as an expert, you can see the future that they can't see. So once again, like coming back to that urgency, I love that you said like urgency for change. It's like on top of that, if you add a timer, amazing. The timer will work and it's effective. And I've seen great things happen with timers. But if they don't first have that emotional thing, you miss out on a whole section of buyers. But I absolutely love that one. I think you're nailing these. These are fantastic.
Here we go. I mean, just trying to make a great podcast episode.
So great. Yes. Going phenomenally.
People, friendly reminder, if you like what I'm saying, please follow,
like, and subscribe,
and review. Okay, perfect. All right, so I have two more, and then we're going to, change the subject a little bit for the last 10 minutes. So safety and certainty, which I really like this one too. So they won't leap if landing feels like what I would call like unknown. So you have to provide evidence. They have to see a process, milestones, and like what support looks like. And if you can make them feel like it's doable and safer than staying stuck, you've got them. And I want to clarify here, this is not just for coaching people. Like everyone, no matter what you sell, people need to feel that it's doable, especially like even if, let's say you're a tax specialist, we'll just take a random thing, right? So that's a service. But if people don't understand your process, your logic, your evidence that you know how to handle, for example, small business taxes, it's going to be really hard for them to say yes because they don't feel safe and certain.
100%. We say people don't move if they think they won't succeed. Like they absolutely will not buy if they think they won't succeed. The four emotions that we make sure that people feel when we get to the pitch is I need this, I want this, I can do this, this is valuable, right? And it's when we get into that, showing proof and evidence, it's exactly what you said. It's so, so, so important. Without certainty, I mean, you're exactly right. The three emotions of sales are excited, seen, and certain. And certain is what we do with our authority style 100% of the time. That certainty is the thing that will make people move because they're investing in themselves. They're not actually investing in you. They're investing in themselves. And if they think they won't succeed, they won't buy. 100%.
Okay, my last one, which is, I'm curious if you think I'm really good at this because this is actually what I think I specialize in terms of this. So I'm so curious. It's hope. So hope is what I would call like a rocket fuel, right? It creates desire, momentum, and commitment. So if you can paint the pictures that they actually see themselves like bright, specific, believable, all of these things, then they will move. So I always like to say I like always capture the hope train, and not in like a bad way, but it is my personal superpower to make people feel like there's hope. You can do this. Other people like you have done this. And it's definitely an expansion on the one we talked before, but it's slightly different.
Yeah. The emotion that we tie it to is this time it will be different, right? A lot of times, the thing that you're fighting the most when it comes to sales presentations is your warmest buyers are people who have tried things before and failed. because they are willing to sign up for something, right? So when you look at that, you have to be able to show them, what you're saying is hope. You have to be able to show them that this time it will be different, right? And you have to be able to show them why, right? The reasons why it will be different, how you are different from past programs, or how you're able to help them with something that they didn't know that they needed, things like that. But if they don't feel, I don't know, trying and failing, it kind of eats at your soul, right?
Yeah, it does.
The more you fail, the more you feel like maybe you are a failure, which sucks, right? It just, it eats at your soul. And
I fail at something every single day. Any entrepreneur tries something almost every day and kind of has these, what I like to call like micro fails. And the micro fails influence your ability to pick yourself back up and do better next time. And also, if you're selling expertise in like the business space, like you have to experiment with things to know what's sticking now, what didn't stick before. So my message to everybody is like, if you're not failing every day, I don't really think you're trying.
For sure. And like the hard thing is, speaking to your audience who is about to buy from you, the reason why hope is so important is because they're coming to you because they don't feel like they have found the solution yet, which means they are probably most likely identifying more as a failure than a succeeder in this moment because they're still looking for a solution, right? So the ability to show them that like, you're not a failure, this time will be different is super key to getting them to move and act. Because if they've taken on that identity, right, coming full circle to that very first emotion, if they've taken on the identity of a failure, like you got a lot of work to do to rewire that into saying like, oh, I'm a person who tries, who picks myself back up, and this time it will be different, right? When I move forward, this time it will be different.
Oh, 100%. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about here as we wrap up is about what's working in 2025 and what you think is going to work in 2026 in terms of what to sell at the end of a sales presentation. Because a real quick caveat here, back in the day when I was doing it, I would do my webinars and sell directly to a high ticket coaching program. And that worked for me. Then I've noticed now there's been a huge shift away from that. And I've seen it, and maybe like I'm seeing the wrong things. That's why I'm asking, is webinar goes to something that is under $500. So it's like free webinar or free event, selling something under $500, and then taking the people who purchased the $500 and converting them into something, more high ticket per se. To me, I like that. That's fine. But I'm also like, what's the fastest path to the client that I want? So talk to me, Goose. What's happening out there?
Yes. Ooh, I love this. Yeah. Do we want to talk high ticket?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I do. Because that's what I like. Every time I try to sell something cheap, nobody buys. So I just increase my pricing and it's easier to sell.
I love it. Yeah, so the best way that we have seen in the last year, and we're leaning into this a ton with our clients in 2026, we call them immersion events to sell high ticket programs. So there are a couple different ways that we do this. So my favorite example, so Russell Brunson, who's awesome in the space. Russell, shout out. Hello, my friend.
Hey, Russell.
Yeah, he's the best. So
by the way, everyone, that's how we got connected is through ClickFunnels and Russell Brunson. So, we're just like giving him a shout out saying, hey.
Hey, Fred. So he did an event called Selling Online. He started doing the event about a year ago. He's run it every single month for the last year. And it's a 3-day challenge, and he sells a $10,000 offer at the end of, it's like a challenge. We call it immersion event because it's like 18 hours of content. It's full days. And he sells a $10K offer at the end without salespeople. It's like a one-click buy, and the conversion rate is insane. We've partnered to teach people how to do those kinds of events, where it's, I guess you could say like the full thing is 5 days because there's a tech day, and then it's 3 full days, and then you have a VIP day at the end. But yeah, these immersion events are working like crazy. And then what we ended up doing is it's a paid event. So it's a paid, 3-day event that's a $100 ticket. There's some upsells and downsells and things like that. And then what we started doing as well is we created front end webinars for those. So it's a little bit like what you were talking about, where we had a front-end webinar where we sold a 297 product. And as part of that product, we included a ticket to selling online. And then people would go to the event just because the customer acquisition cost got a little bit higher than we wanted. And we wanted that to be a little bit more profitable on the front end. So we did front-end webinar to immersion event to sell the high-ticket product. That flow is something that we're totally leaning into. Another thing that we have done, one-day masterclasses that it's like a full half-day masterclass has been awesome. As far as high ticket, I think the highest ticket we have sold in the last year or with clients for that, I think was like maybe 5,000, maybe 3,500 for that. So it wasn't like the $10,000 range. Typically, I wish I had the exact ratio. It's a certain amount of hours that you spend with somebody per $1,000 that you charge them, right? So a lot of times when Tanner comes back in, we'll put it in the show notes or something. Like,
okay, we'll put it in the show notes. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Formula to saying like how many hours are you going to spend with somebody versus how high ticket is your product. And those hours can be, they can be accumulated in a couple different ways. But we feel like if you are with somebody, right, what we've seen with the immersion events is when you're with somebody for that amount of time, you're just able to sell them so much more, such a higher ticket price. So that's what we've seen. So the things that we're leaning into. So we love the half day master classes that are like 4 hours-ish in a single day, which are great. And then we always have a VIP day. We love the immersion events, which is 3 full days, but we have a tech check day and then a VIP day. We've done a ton of webinars. We've done so many webinars, but not to sell high ticket, right? Not without a salesperson. The webinars primarily have been front end webinars or selling like a 997 $2,000 product that way.
Yeah. So I also think like in terms of, that's great. If you can sell a $4,000 thing without a salesperson, that's amazing.
Or 10.
So take that all day long. But if somebody is listening right now and you're much higher in like the $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 range, then just direct them to book a sales call. You can do that too, right? It's like, or you just look at your value offer stack and that $3,000 initial purchase, and then you can get your team in there to upsell and to do all of the things. I think what's interesting is, with selling ClickFunnels, which Russell Brunson still sells ClickFunnels, that is a product, people. So I want everybody listening right now, like once again, not just talking about high ticket coaching offers and all of the other things, but if you are someone who has a hybrid business where there's a product in conjunction with coaching or consulting, like listen up, friends, because this formula will work for you. All right, so we've got that covered. So my last thing that I want to talk about, which is my favorite question, which okay, I love this one. What is the most rascal thing that you've ever done in business?
Oh, man, just the audacity. I think at the very beginning of my business, I did a lot of, now we call it non-consensual coaching. I don't know if I would suggest this all the way, but it did get me far where like, I would just coach people, without their consent. And I would point out amazing things that they were doing, but also, and it's landed us really big partnerships. Big speaking gigs, things like that, where, at the beginning I did, this show called Everyday Charisma, where for 5 days I would point out the things, only positive things, right? But that made somebody charismatic. And then we would end up like connecting with these big people. It was a great Dream 100 strategy. And then, I would just like send a Voxer to my friends after I'd watched their things. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. Like I was coaching one of my clients the other day on something similar. And I told them to do this. And they'd be like, can I hire you to do this for me? And I'd be like, sure, right? So like, sometimes people ask me questions of like, how did you get to do this or partner with this person? And I'm like, man, the audacity, like, I don't know where that audacity comes from, but I would say that is just like the non-consensual coaching of just saying like, I am an expert and I do have value here. And I think I could add something to this.
Well, McCall, you're nicer than me because I did the opposite. So I don't even know what you call that. I literally did like, do not do this in the DMs series. Like, so I would black out people's names and then use a screenshot and be like, this is why this is horrendous. And please never do this again. And
people were like, that's me. I sent that message. Oh no. I love that.
Yeah, but I will tell you, it also converted into a lot of clients.
Especially when people look at it and they're like, dang it, I'm doing that.
So, I think your version of it is a lot more polite than mine, but I think the key word here is audacity. And quite frankly, I think that's just the way people build businesses. And if it was two men talking right now, they'd probably be like, non-consensual coaching, what is that? Like, I don't know, I just tell people what to do, right? So sometimes our female, empathetic, beautiful brains just get in there too much. So you just have to have the audacity. You have to have the grit. You need to go ask for what you want.
Yeah.
I love it. Awesome. Okay, McCall, we'll make sure that in the show notes, people can reach you, but anything I forgot to ask you or a call to action you want to throw in?
No, girl, check out charismahacking.com. Anything that we have going will be at charismahacking.com. We have a lot of stuff coming out in 2026 that we're really excited about. And yeah, just stay tuned. So excited.
Stay tuned. Amazing. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And that's a wrap. See you next time on Revenue Rascals.
Thanks for listening to Revenue Rascals, where we turn bold ideas into predictable revenue and prove that breaking the rules can still build empires. If you love what you heard, do me a favor. Tap the links in the show notes to support our sponsors. They're the ones keeping this show free so I can keep ungating the six-figure strategies that help you scale faster, lead smarter, and take more freedom home with you. And hey, if you think you'd make an incredible guest or know someone who's built something worth studying, email me at hello@michelleterpstra.com. And until next time, stay sharp, stay bold, and stay just a little bit rascal.